Hello, everyone! Woo! Welcome to another episode of Songs and Sorcery! Hello, everyone! I am so excited to be back because why? There's a lot of things that happen. Holy shit, LA! Holy fuck! Oh, I wish we could see that coming. We did, but honestly, it's a whole fucking fiasco, what they're calling riots, they were protests to begin with, until someone starts throwing a fucking stun grenade, then, things escalate naturally. But, no, honestly, I am here today not to talk about that, but to talk about the weeks that I've had. I'm trying to sort of go into, hold on, am I center frame? Hold on. No, wait. Much better. So as you all can see, I have no hair. I did a little bit of a thing here. I know, bitches! Looking fucked! No, but honestly, the reason why is because it's honestly practically summer. It's been really hot, and honestly, having such long hair, no matter how fabulous, is a bit, not recommended. So I was like, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. And I know you all are like, well, you had... I'm like, no, we're not doing that all the time. I have to be able to come out here every now and then and just, fucking show myself because honestly, I missed all of you. Not, being able to come forth and be reduced to hinge on the back of this of this boy's mind can be a bit of a problem sometimes, honestly. He's very nice, he's very cordial, yes, he's cute or whatever. But he's just such, he can be such a prude. He's not expressive enough. He's not like me, He's sort of a bit shy and likes to not always talk so much and can be kind of, I'm not like that, So I'm here because I missed being in the limelight as I deserve to be. And honestly, like I said, I experience life the same way he does, but a little bit different. I do a lot of internal monologue. He hates it, but I love it. It's this little game we play. We like to do that all the time. But honestly, no. I'm still working at the portals, unfortunately. I am still fucking there, but you know what? We do what we can. I will say this. There's lots of freaks that are flying through the portals right now. A lot of the brooms are missing. Some of the brooms aren't working. Luckily, we haven't had a fiasco with the last accident that happened. Several people lost their lives, unfortunately. But it is a bit of a work in progress. And like I said, the portals are where I work anyway. The portals are a bit small, a bit limited. We're not like the grand portcullises. It's sort of like these. Lower dump. But where I come from, we have these giant hubs where a lot of these sort of portals are located, and they can travel to and from these locations. The reason why people try to go to these locations personally and not from their own houses is because, unfortunately, due to certain circumstances, being able to travel via portal from a person's home has been sort of prohibited. There have been several scares, several attacks on noble families throughout the years, by the use of personal portals, and honestly, it hasn't really been the best thing. So they can use portals to a certain degree, but not for personal travel. You can still relay messages, you can still do deliveries via portal. However, you cannot physically go through the portals into another world or another dimension. They sort of outlawed this because, fucking dumbasses, and shit happens. So, so that's what that is what we are reduced to. However, we have this giant hub, quite massive, with hundreds of portals all over the place, brilliantly decorated, and there are markets all over the area. There are shows, even there are crap tables if you're into that sort of shit. It's not called craps where I come from, but it's sort of like the equal sort of value of the thing. But like I said, honestly, it is immaculate what they've done to these sort of things. Sort of think of it as like a giant stone clearing with columns everywhere, and you have things like bazaars, marketplaces, different kinds of cultures and markets all sort of woven in together around these portals. It is crazy. Now, sometimes what they did was very clever, was because when there are certain portals that are specifically for certain regions, they would decorate that portal that leads to that region in the, amenities of the culture. They would, put down, things like, for example, they would show special trees, exotic plants, animals, clothing, all from where you're going right before the portal. So it sort of, prepares you for what you're sort of going in for. It's the same thing with food, with movies, whatever the fuck it is. It's like that for almost every portal. Now, there are some portals that are a bit more ominous. The portals that are sort of pretty much empty are portals that are pretty much just commonplace things between, the realms. As the common areas, However, there are certain exceptions. When it comes to these certain other portals, there are the ones that sort of show up a bit more blank or have this ominous air, are ones that are specifically made or designated to go to specific dimensions, sometimes points in time, but they are highly restricted portals. And they have servitors, they have tulpas, they have all kinds of spirits and powerful entities that are guarding these portals. Now, these portals, some of us, I have not been able to go through one, but I had a friend who did. And they couldn't share much, but they said that they were sent as an envoy for a sort of, you could say, diplomatic-like mission. The details of the mission they could not say, but they said they had to pretty much be, they were sent to a different location, a different place within the world that no one really is allowed to go to, which is why it requires an immense amount of security. And so almost nobody goes to these portals, and that's some reason why they're so desolate, because only very few people are allowed to go there. So whenever people do show up to the portals and they're allowed to enter, it draws attention. It draws a fucking massive crowd. I'm talking dozens and hundreds of people will just start encircling the portal to see what is going on. Now, the guards that are stationed at these specific portals are sort of the ones that are sort of breaching the people back. However, even with the guards in place, the spirits and the entities that watch over the area have these sort of invisible fields in place to sort of deter anyone without a proper identification or a card to enter and to go through the portal. This is serious business. It is one of the most secretive things about where I come from that even I don't know that much about. But there's far too many portals with far too few places, if you catch my meaning. I theorize, and I have it on good authority, that some of these portals not only lead to different locations on the world that perhaps are a bit more restrictive, they also lead to different dimensions, as we do have interdimensional travel, but like I said, it is on a case-by-case basis with only certain individuals. Just no one can do this. And if you do this, you can get locked up for a decent amount of time if it is proven you've done so with a certain level of intent, and depending on what you brought with you to or from this place. So it's no joking matter. You can get in some serious deep shit, and you have to be very careful. Otherwise, they're going to come after you. And I don't know about you, but having invisible forces come after you in your most vulnerable state, is a bit enticing, but I dare not attempt it. I dare not. But anyway, let us get on with it. I cannot be here without my beautiful and illustrious co-host, Grimmy! Say hello, Grimmy. Yes? Thank you, Grimmy. I love you too. You also look rather well. And, oh my god, Grimmy, you smell gorgeous. He smells like lavender. And honestly, on that point, I'm going to put Grimmy here. So Grimmy is somewhat, facing front and center. Because Grimmy didn't like being down there before. Sorry. I'm recovering from an illness, a curse that was given to me. Because I'm fabulous. Grimmy, unfortunately, has a tendency to sort of sweat for some reason. I think it's based on the materials that Grimmy is made out of, unfortunately. No, Grimmy! I'm not saying you smell, per se. But you do sweat. You have leather, whatever the fuck you're made of. What? I'm not even going to go there. Grimmy, it was not even a slight, really. It's an honest statement. Alright, I apologize. I don't know you didn't want this out there. Look, okay, just ignore that. I didn't realize Grimmy was very sensitive about it. He's saying some very hurtful things right now. Grimmy, I am sorry. Okay, I love you. You're magnificent, you're beautiful, you're sexy, you're beloved. You're bodacious. Your energy gives me agita from the immense wealth and knowledge you possess. Honestly, Grimmy. Look, I'm sorry I mentioned that. I didn't know I wasn't allowed to mention it. I won't bring it up again, I'm sorry. The lavender spray is brilliant. I recommend you use lavender spray. It can also be used for your altar, which I actually did set up in my location. Will I show you a picture of it? I am not. I will, but I have to sort of clean it up. I have certain things on there right now. Specifically enough, when it comes to things like altars, you can show altars, but it will, like I said, who calls the shots, honestly. But like I said, you can always just clean up your altar, your space. I have the cloth set up and everything else. I moved from the windowsill to a table. And I love the table. I actually do like it a lot. And it's sort of one that I already had, and I believe it is perfect what I'm using it for. So I will perhaps show you that picture. And I think I do have it on here, so I will probably show it up. If it is here, you will have seen it. Okay? So, honestly, forgive me, I apologize, okay? But, let me get to something. So we're going to be catching up on a few things. And I'm going to take a little bit of a survey. So, like I said, I feel so plain in this garb. It's not like the usual fantastical things, but when it's this hot out, you have to sort of try to dress down a bit, but still have a bit of a, tasteful design. I think, honestly, the ensemble looks tasty without this extra thing on. But like I said, I wanted time for myself in front of the camera. Okay? Isaac? Okay? I need this, please. Like I said, anyways, we're going to be talking about something very special. So, last weekend, it was quite, was it last week or the week before? I think it was perhaps 2-3 weeks ago. I want to say 3 weeks ago. I had the privilege of attending a very special ceremony, a reading, by none other than Nathan King. Right here. Oh my God, he's so tasty. I'm sorry. He's so cute. I couldn't stand it. I just wanted to... If you see this, I'm sorry, but you are very dazzling. But like I said, I did in fact purchase a book, one of his books, called Nathan King Awakening the Witch Blood. Now, what surprised me is that I didn't really know Nathan King too much, which is why I didn't really get anything signed. He was offering signage. I was prepared, but I was like, you know what, this feels a bit weird. It feels a bit forced. I want it to be a bit more natural, And so I didn't know this person heading straight in. And I'm a person that thrives on knowledge and information, and I am titillated by anyone that sort of is able to unravel themselves before me. And Nathan did in quite garish and lustfully delicious ways. Honestly, I couldn't contain. I couldn't help myself. I was like, this beautiful young man had the audacity to show up with such brilliant fun and flavorful energy. He had an energy about him. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely adored it. But what I was happy with, and what I was worried about, not going to lie, is that whenever you have... Now, I've heard his name in passing. So I'm like, well, this person is a bit proficient, but I know them not. And the person that I'm friends with at the museum, shout out to Buckland Museum of Witchcraft Museum, located in Cleveland, Ohio, a very beautiful establishment, the best there is, hands down. You never know who comes in. So many people claim to be these sort of things, so many people have these sort of accolades, but I know them not. I am very serious when it comes to this sort of thing. I want to make sure that you are legit, and that you know what you're talking about, and that you come across as informative, and you are able to answer my questions when I ask you. And ask him I did, because despite his alluring gaze and his rather, debonair smile, I had to sort of, magic takes precedence in my life, as does the spirit and as does knowledge, unfortunately. I know it is what it is. So I had to make sure I had to test him to see what his sort of takes are. The things I did find out about Nathan King were quite interesting. And honestly, I believe it is perhaps better if you perhaps look up things about Nathan King himself. Now, I should have probably done a deep dive, but like I said, I don't normally do this sort of thing where I sort of rate or review other people, not necessarily this person. Melinda. That's a different story, though. Nathan. Oh my God, he's so delicious. Honestly, though, and I don't mean to be a creep about it, but he really is. He's beautiful. Look at him. As soon as I saw him, I was like, I want him in my life. I know, as a friend or more, or honestly, fuck it. You had a splendid time. Honestly, I would love to have tea with you, Nathan. Splendid tea. Have some talks, some stories, even game night. We could watch movies together. Him and his partner, because he mentioned partner, I know them not. And I'll pretend he doesn't have one. Whatever. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so bad. I shouldn't have said it. No. It's uttered in the open. I'm sorry. Nathan, you are beautiful. You are marvelous. But honestly, what I loved about Nathan, though, above all else, was his mind and his intrigue. I found his nerdity incredibly infectious. I was absolutely elated by the amount of knowledge he possessed. And it made me love him and want him even more. I am so into that. Because he shows a genuine interest and a level of understanding within his craft and about his craft and about the origins of the craft and history that is absolutely remarkable, and is something that I absolutely adore. Because unfortunately, when it comes to people that are sort of around my age or younger, as is the case with Nathan, they tend to talk a lot but not have much to show for it. But he has his lineages, he has his, his coven, the people that he's a part of. I believe it was the Minoan Brotherhood. You can do your information on that. And honestly, if there's never sees us, hello, beloved, welcome to the show. But honestly, you could perhaps do some clarification in the comments if you would like. However, I was very happy and elated, and I did do some digging into what the Minoan Brotherhood is. And of course, I can't say it's really my thing. However, that's the beautiful thing about witchcraft and magic. It doesn't have to be. But what I did love about him was not only his wealth of knowledge, but his willing to be open about what it is regarding the information he has and about his own thing. No one really pressed him about his personal thing. There's never really a time or place for that. But I absolutely love the fact that he is very much very comfortable when it comes to speaking to a people. He sort of retains this sort of level of graciousness. He has a sort of level of aptitude that I find absolutely refreshing. He doesn't sort of jeopardize or sort of demean himself in any way with any sort of, strange comments or things like words or whatever. He is absolutely young. He's a person of his age. He has his things, as do we all. But when it comes to the task at hand, when he's on the stage, different person. He is a showman, a performer in his own best regard, and I absolutely love that. As you all know, I myself am a bardic practitioner, a bard by trade and spirit. I live and breathe by the arts. Okay, I absolutely do. And to have someone like that, this proficient, this confident, already they're having their own book published, everything else like that, the people that he was able to talk to, the people that he was able to meet, he's traveled to different places, to things like London, witch sites, powerful places of energy and focus. I was honestly a little bit jealous, but I was very happy about it. And I was very happy about him. And I was very happy to look at him the entire time. Honestly, his smile captured me every time. It's beautiful. I have a picture of him right here. He posted me. Oh my God! Oh my God! I don't want to be a creep. I want to show my elation for this. But honestly, this was the enemy. What he saw was the other guy. The person that's a bit more kept together, a bit more reserved. But I'm a bit more out there. I'm the party animal. I'm sorry. But honestly, it was very refreshing to watch that. To see someone his age, and I don't mean to say anything minimal, but honestly, most people, let's be honest, that are his age, whether they're in the occult circles or not, don't really exude this amount of, depth when it comes to the craft, or when it comes to things like magic or anything else like that. Now, there's some certain things regarding his practice that perhaps I don't like. I can't say for sure. There were some things I spoke with others about because I had genuine questions. But honestly, I am more than happy to do an interview personally with the Nathan King. Okay? And I apologize if, you perhaps took no offense at all to the great Nathan King. That's not my intention at all. Simply observations that I did. But I was very happy by your answers and satisfied with them. Okay? I absolutely was. You did a marvelous job. I recommend Nathan highly. Very highly. And I would love to be able to have, at some point in the future, a proper interview. But honestly, I just want it to be just casual conversation. He's done interviews with other people before. It's very, formulaic. It's very whatever. But I love when someone is just open, just having a pure conversation, chair to chair, in person. That is what I would prefer. And I am more than willing to travel and to make the trip to where Nathan is. And if push comes to shove, I am well within my right and means to pay. That's all I'm saying. Because you know what? We need to support the practitioners. We need to support our people that are out there and the front lines giving us wealth of information, who are not ashamed of who and what they are, and that are in fact making a difference in the lives of many and countless others. And I believe that is very important. All right. So, the thing with the thinking, that happened. Okay. So there's a couple of things happening currently. There's a couple of events happening. The solstice was cancelled. I was so mad! I was looking forward to going to the fucking solstice celebration. Drums and everything, my kind of thing, and it was cancelled, unfortunately. However, my lovely friend at the Witch Museum informed me that a person, an author, that I believe is, I think they authored some books from Ray Buckland himself. Jason Mankey, I believe, will be making an appearance at this sort of solstice event. And I will be attending. So I am going to, give honestly my honest take and opinions about it. I will hopefully get some photos and pictures. I don't know whether or not they are local, if they're here in person. If they are, I would love to be able to have an interview to just speak with them personally. Because honestly, I am fascinated by anything and everything occult. I honestly am. When it comes to magic, when it comes to practices, when it comes to how they do sort of things, their methodologies, it's so fantastic. And I absolutely love it. So he will be attending there, as will I. And I will be taking pictures. Hopefully I'm not hurt. But it's going to be, I think, an actual ritual. And to comment on that, Nathan, your ritual, the altar thing, it was beautiful. It was magnificent. I was fantastic. The musical portion, I believe, should have been longer. The people here are a bit not like me or us, I'm assuming. I was well into the whole music, the words and everything else. I brought my little shakers. I took them. I couldn't help it. I was like, look, if there's a ritual, I'm a bard. That's part of my magic, is the music and everything else, and to get into that state. But it was only for 30 minutes. That's not long enough, baby. I'm sorry. I last for way. I'm sorry. That's just a warm up for me. But we couldn't be there all night. I know. But the ritual happened on a separate day. So the first day, it was him using an introduction, giving us a breakdown of the history of what he's doing, the craft and everything else, awakening the witch blood, whatever it is. And then the day after, he had the ritual, the public ritual that was there. And I was there. I was happy. I did feel things, actually, believe it or not. I felt weak in the knees. I don't know if he was looking at Nathan for the spiritual influences, but it happened, and I was happy about it. But Nathan, it was too short for me. I like to, well, I'm used to doing meals, but I love a good ritual. Just to get into that space, sort of escaping one's mind, escaping oneself, surrendering into the magic, into the moment, into the spirit. That is what I like to do. So that happened. But this ritual coming up now, who's to say? I don't know what to expect, only great things. DJ Semenke. I'm excited. So I have that to look forward to. And so one of the things I wanted to sort of talk about was I have noticed that in the past, whenever I read a book, I believe people actually went to see it. I don't know if these were all members here. Hi! But like I said, I thought about recording something actually quite recently, and I think I could make that an everyday, if not every week thing, when I'm reading a chapter or two, if I'm not exhausted. And I, unfortunately, my Dracula copy that I was reading for the Halloween season, that I was going to be reading, actually a continuation of, is lost. I don't know where it is, I don't know who took it, I don't know who cursed me, but it happened. However, the other book that I was reading that I do have in my possession, however, would be Stephen King's Fairy Tale. And I will be reading that. Because honestly, I have to. But if you like my reading, please comment, give your critiques, say some things you would like me to read, and I will read them for you. However, this is YouTube. I don't have any sort of permissions to read anything, but honestly, I read it, I give credit to the authors. I just like to read. But I like to read aloud and for the people to hear. And I believe as though some people perhaps don't have the proper internal monologue of voice to capture the essence of the scene of the event that is taking place within the pages of this book. So I thought I could just read it to you. You didn't have to read it. You can give me a suggestion, I will read it for you. I will be reading that, however. We still have the Divine Comedy, Dante's Inferno, of what is also known as. I was planning on reading that. Also for religious context and comparisons. Very interesting shit. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Paulo Coelho. Beautiful book. And not that long either, unlike other things. And of course, J.R. Tolkien's novel, The Fall of Numenor, was another one I had in mind of reading. But it is a thick bitch. So, hold on. There is a bookmarker here. Okay. I mean, obviously there's a bookmarker, but it was activated. Strange. Who is reading this while I was sleeping? Grimmy, are you cheating on me? And then I purchased this very recently, and I have not read it yet, but it is from C.S. Lewis, the guy that wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, known as Out of the Silent Planet. It is part of a trilogy, a series, and I believe it is an epic sci-fi from what I think I've seen. And I love those sort of things, so I would definitely be reading this. It's not a long read, but I wanted to read this sort of thing first before I read the other ones. So I have that to read. This book here, I found in the airport. Someone dropped it, and I thought this is a very witchy looking book, and it is this one by Piers Anthony. Okay, you probably can't read it there. With a Tangled Skin. I don't know what this is about. Book 3 of Incarnations of Immortality. Oh my god. I mean, honestly, a worthy find. I rescued this book. But yes, I will definitely be wanting to read that. And then, of course, Spirit Conjuring for Witches. That is my personal thing. I'm reading into that. Daniel Harms for some history about witch bottles, of course. Waking the Witch with Pam Grossman. A signed book, actually. I think I will probably go into that and give my special critiques about it. And Gemini Witch, a very beautiful book, an awesome book. Put this there, you need to see that. I've actually read this in digital form, but I was going to read this again and give my 2 cents about it. And perhaps talk about some of the workings or spells within them. Some of the things in here as well. This one's only really good if you're an actual Gemini. If you're a Gemini practitioner, they have one for each horoscope at each sign. So I recommend you get that if you're curious. So like I said, I have a lot of things worth reading or going into. As of course you can see here, I also have the book of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece and Tales of Norse Mythology. By different authors and shit like that. The covers are magnificent, they're beautiful, and I will show you at a later date. So there's that going on. I have been working on doing offerings to the spirits, to my gods, to my deities, on a schedule, on cycle. Have I been getting any sort of strange things? I do realize that there are certain things that sort of become more prevalent throughout the weeks. Any direct spirit contact or communication I have not established yet. So I'm sort of testing that out to see what I am doing wrong, or to see what I perhaps could do to improve. Because I want to do things my way, but I don't know if it's getting the effect that I'm looking for. I'm looking at the altar right now. So that is my hope, that I can actually gain some foot grounds. And actually, an update as well. I have been jotting down in this little black book, I'm making a portable version, all of the songs that I have created personally for the spirits and for the deities. It is part of this book that I'm working on novel. I'm sort of writing it on paper first to see how it looks like, how it feels. And the book, I didn't picture being in this size, more like Grimmy's size. Grimmy's, you're a perfect size, Grimmy. But like I said, I'm going to be writing them down here, because I'm like, you know what? On the go, inspiration strikes, that is when you do your shit. Okay? So, comments. I think the whole LA riot thing is crazy. We do know that he absolutely is trying to enforce himself, a grand show of force and shit. That is how he does things. Based on the information that I've gathered and from confessions from the actual leaders of LA, when they were pressed about it, they did not ask for any sort of military, invasion. That's what it was. They didn't ask for anything like that. Every city has riots. This riot that they talk about was a few people, and it happened way after the protest stopped. So, from the sources that I've gathered. Like I said, you have people that are, for example, ICE is operating there in unmarked vehicles, just driving around, popping out and just grabbing people. How do you expect people to react to that? Aside from the whole thing when it comes to the immigrants and everything else, I understand the laws and everything, but honestly, it's LA. Like, it's California. You are forcing yourself into another land to enforce your will upon the people that didn't ask for it. So of course there's going to be some problems. And let's not forget, when California needed aid during the wildfires, they were offered no aid. Trump would not send people down there to help them with the situation because they didn't vote for him because they were not for him. He absolutely played favorites. It needed help. Fuck all. Okay? You know who did help? Canada. Canada was sending planes down to help deal with the wildfires. When our own president, Trump, would not do so, which was his duty. We have money for the specific reasons, and he did not want to help California at all. At all. So, don't be surprised when the mayor, the governor of California, that wants nothing to do with you or your agents in his state. Point blank, I'm going to say this. None of your fucking business anyway. You know? ICE is going everywhere. But what the president doesn't realize is that each state is a land that is governed by a lord. Let's say it in that way. You can't just go in there. You may be the sort of, proverbial king that you want to be, but we have rules in place, laws within this country that he is not abiding by. So the comparisons people are trying to make with Obama enforcing something versus Trump, there is no comparison. Everything Obama did was legal, by the books, okay? And it wasn't anywhere near this fiasco as it is now. Not because it's just because, no, it's because who the man is, what he is doing, what he's proven to have been doing, as well as his people that are under him, it's stupid and it's illegal. That is the whole point. That is the whole thing. God. Fucking morons. They're all fucking morons. I'm sorry. And for anyone who sees this, perhaps voted for the fuck, anything else, Like I said, on a personal level, anyone can be fine. And I can give some grace. Let's say, for example, you actually didn't think he was going to be doing the crazy shit we said he was going to do. We were proven right by. You're like, damn. Fuck. But if you're still defending him after not only what he said, but what he's done, what he's still doing, what his people are doing, and you have no care, I'm like, what do you want me to say? I'm not going to sugarcoat shit. That's how we got here, unfortunately. But him I don't like. Alright? But like I said, these are things I try to avoid in casual conversation. Religion and politics. Two things don't even talk about. Okay? If we don't have the same views on religion or politics, let's not talk about any of that shit. Because it's going to create an issue. Because some people just cannot stop talking and can't just take no or can't just take silence as an answer. And then I'm a person that can be very prideful, and I will not stop a conversation either. I can be extremely petty. I have my moments. But that's all that. Anyways, without further ado, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This was more so a catch-up as to what I have been doing, what I have learned, and what I want to do in the future. I will be reading books. If you like that, I will talk about it. If you want me to do a sort of ritual or something like that, I will do it. However, as you all may know, if there's an actual spirit that wants to fucking show up and do some things, I'll be happy. And then if they want to not have it be on camera, I will specify. Because that is, believe it or not, one thing that bothers me when it comes to a lot of occult creators or practitioners. All of the secrecy. I understand that there's some transparency and there's closed doors, but it's like some of us require more and some of us seek more. And when we're not given that, it leaves us questioning and thinking. That's why there's so much incoherency when it comes to, well, how do you do this? How do you know you're doing anything right? People need structure, people need guidance. But people need to be able to see something that can confirm or deny their suspicions. When I attended the public ritual, for example, in Utah 2 years ago, okay, I had never been to one, and I have never really seen this sort of magical aspect when it comes to ritual, things like witchcraft. When I was there for the ritual, I saw something I was not expecting and didn't think would really happen. But I was excited and I was hopeful. And I was pleasantly surprised. And that was something that I was able to see. Okay? This was in Mormon capital. So now that to me, that set an extremely high bar. So any ritual I go to, if I don't see some shit or feel some shit, I'm going to be like, whatever about it. So, but that's me. I'm a performer. I'm an artist. I'm also someone that takes the occult things very serious sometimes. Because, like I will talk about in a future video, things like religious trauma. I came from a very heavy religious background, a lifestyle for over 20 years. And so seeing how those things are, seeing how I was, seeing how I felt about certain things, and then having it come full circle and seeing the things for what they are, it is important for people like us that came from those backgrounds to know and understand and to come to terms with. Because those sort of things can help confirm things that we've been feeling or we weren't sure how to feel about. Leaving something so dire to us that we thought was real but wasn't anything on that same level is important for us. We need to see magic. We need to see spirits. We need to see the effects. We need to see the things that work. Because we come from something that didn't really have that. And if it did, it was some other manifestations. But like I said, the doubt creeps in. Not for me, I don't doubt at all. But for other people like myself. That is why you have people that revert to that sort of thing, because they aren't sure what they're doing. They don't know what sort of promises to look out for. They don't know the spirits, anything. They are ignorant of this world. But they want to be part of this world. But by us being secretive, by us not being as open as perhaps we should be, these sort of things cause people to question the newfound faith in the occult. And I get the vibe sometimes where people within occult groups don't really believe completely what they're doing. I would not say that we shouldn't have a level of criticism and a level of, what's the proper word for it? We have to be sort of careful about these sort of things. We can't just sort of live in a delusion. We can't have that. I don't allow that either. But every now and then, in order for something to have an actual impact in your life, it has to do something real enough to convince the senses that I am where I should be. This looks like the right path. I want more of that. But a lot of what we have, a lot of what we see, is just a lot of people like, I did this awesome thing, I can't talk about it. I saw this crazy thing, I can't talk about it. I spoke with the spirit, whatever, I can't talk about it. And it's like, I have experiences. I was nearly dragged out of bed. A spirit grabbed me, nearly dragged me out of bed. I don't know who the fuck it was. Another time I was straddled by a spirit. It was jumping on me while I was in bed trying to sleep for fucking work. And both times I called out to Hermes, and Hermes broke it. He sort of broke me out of that, whatever the fuck was going on. Okay? And that was big for me. Because before then, whenever I had sort of occurrences, I would be calling upon Jesus or God or whatever. But this shows my growth and my breaking away from those chains of that religion. That when I was in trouble, the name I called out to was that of a pagan god, of a different spirit, of a spirit of power, liminality. Something that was real enough to me that I was like, I call it, and it stopped. Now, was that the power that came from me that I stopped it? Or was it because the person that I was trusting, that I was doing weekly devotions to religiously till this day, of it paying off and them acting? I can only hope. And I have had special things with other deities as well. And I would certainly look for more. But like I said, after coming from a sort of traumatic lifestyle, I can be very abrasive when it comes to things like deities. I'm like, look, I spent enough of my time dealing with one that never spoke to me or did anything for me. Do not be the same kind of thing, please. Be real, be there. If I am doing work, if I am giving you petitions, if I'm giving you prayers, if I'm giving you offerings, the very least of these things you can do is show up for me. That is all I'm asking. You know, I want to communicate. You want to communicate. You think I'm a hard-headed. You see me walk. You know how. You know who the fuck I am. You know how I behave. I'm tangenting right now. You know my lifestyle. You can't just adjust and okay, this is how it communicates. Okay, I'll do that instead. That's simple. That's simple. If I tell you to talk to me in dreams, do that. If I tell you to manifest in this manner, do that because it's comfortable for me. If I'm going to talk to someone, a stranger, that has apprehensions, if I want to establish communication with this person, with this entity, I want to make sure they are comfortable and they know that I am coming in peace, that I'm coming to help or to offer to anything else. So even the form that I choose is going to be in a way where it's not going to come off as abrasive or as dangerous. There's growth to be had, but like I said, we are all different, and a lot of us have problems and trauma. If it was me, if I was a god, okay, and you needed help, and I saw you needed help, and you said, I want to, but I don't know how, or I need a sign for something that I understand, I would ask, okay, what sort of sign are you looking for? Because they're probably not my readers, granted. But if you fucking tell them, I'm like, then do it. Then do it. Because the worst thing you can do after leaving something like that to this is to waste your time further. Okay? I know people that have, you know, that sort of like went into this thing too hard. I didn't. That's the difference. I'm taking it easy. I'm learning bit by bit, putting things in. Life gets in the way all the fucking time. All the fucking time. But I'm trying to be better about it. Okay? Let not my offerings be for naught. Okay? Do not let my dreams fade away into nothing. Allow the light of my spirit to flourish and to brighten my horizons so that others may see me. You know, and that they too can take the path to freedom. That is what I'm looking for. That is what I'm asking. So, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I will end the tangent here. It is almost up on the video. Grimmy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all so much for watching. Nathan King, you're beautiful, darling. As are all of my other friends and witches out there. My rats especially. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, freaks. Goodbye.